Okay, well, you can still talk. It's a total conversation here. Okay, well, this is, like I said, I entitled this the Crash Course of Prayer for a very simple reason. I think people don't know what prayer is all about. That's all. I think that people think that prayer is, to use the example, God is a candy machine. What I do is I put my prayer in, and it's not my thing. I heard it from another rabbi, but it's people saying I put my prayer in, just like I put my dollar into the soda machine. I pull the lever, or I say the words, and I expect that prayer to be answered the way I want it. And that's why when people say God didn't answer my prayers, what does that mean? God didn't give you what you asked for. The same way as if I put my $1.50 these days, into the soda machine, I pull a Coke, I wanted Coke, I pull the Coke, and suddenly a Mountain Dew comes out. I didn't get what I wanted. Or nothing comes out. I certainly didn't get what I wanted. So God is not a soda machine. That's the first thing we have to recognize. That God, when we pray to God, when we're asking, beseeching God for something, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to get it. That's number one. Number two is, God always answers our prayers. Sometimes it's a no, plain no. Now, why would God say no to us? Because we believe that God knows what's best for us. And if God knows what's best for us, if I'm going to pray when that $1 billion lottery was going, and so many people were praying, God, let me win that $1 billion. Only one person, 3, 20, whatever, can win it big. And so God said to those people, most of us, he said to, no, you're not ready for this yet. You're not ready for the responsibility of $1 billion. Those people who will get it, for whatever reason they got it, God decided they were ready for that sort of a test. And believe me, that's a tremendous test when you get $1 billion when you're only making normally $20, $30, $40, $50, $100,000, whatever you want to make. Suddenly I have $1 billion. You know how much charity you have to give from that? 10%. Let's say I would get the full $1 billion. That means I have to give $100 million in charity. How many people have a hard time writing out a check for $18? Okay? They always say, if I would have the money, I would write it out. It's a lie. You wouldn't write it out so quickly. You'll write it $18 quickly, but you're not going to write out $100 million quickly. Okay? And that's very hard to do because you're saying, it's my money. I want to give that away. So God says, no, I have to give it to the proper people who are going to know where to give it, what to do with it, how much to give to tzedakah, how to invest it properly, how to use the money properly. So not everybody can do that. So Hashem gives it to some people, and to others he doesn't. But that, we would say, you didn't answer my prayers. I needed, okay, you won't get me $1 billion. How about $1 million? Okay, and that means $100,000 to tzedakah, by the way. In other words, you always have to look at that sort of thing. What do I have to give back to the system in order to, in that lottery system, in order for God to say yes to me? And what am I going to do with that $1 million anyway? Go on a trip? How am I going to use it properly? So Hashem is saying basically, you're not ready for it. You have to do some more work, yeah?
But there's some people that go through their money and are in debt who have won the lottery.
Correct.
Not everybody can handle it.
Correct. And that's but no, see, that's the whole thing. Hashem said you can handle it. Whether or not you will handle it, I don't know. I don't know, but that I'm leaving it up to you. But every one of those people really could have handled it and they had the wherewithal to handle it. They decided to squander it. You have a tremendous power as a writer. Your God gave you that power. So God says either you're going to use it properly and you're going to produce, or you're going to squander it. That's up to you. And he gave me an ability. He gives all of us an ability. And he gives us that test and says either you're going to squander it or you're going to use it. I'm not going to force you into it like any good parent. We don't force our children. My sister had tremendous ability when it came to Hebrew. My parents wanted her to go into Hebrew. And she didn't. She went to something else. So in their minds, she squandered that opportunity. Whether or not she did, I'm not going to argue. She's, Baruch Hashem, she's successful in other manners. But it came easy to her. It certainly has come easy to me, to you, and everybody else. So Hashem says, this is your test. Do you take your natural talents and develop them to do what you're going to do what I want you to do? Or do you say, no, I'm going to do it my way? So the same thing with this money that people get. Hashem says, okay, you're ready. You have the wherewithal to do it. Now I give it to you. Now it's up to you. Now what happens is, again, people do squander it. Some squander it, some go broke, some spend it all over the place. Or they give it away, all the relatives come out of the window, and they don't know what to do. They don't know how to say no. And really, sometimes it's their responsibility to say no.
In the Reform service, there's a Mishaberach. Am I saying it right?
Mishaberach?
Yeah, that is, people mention people that are in need or sick, or and we all pray for that person. But again, that doesn't quite is not quite in accord with what the overall philosophy is. That you can't, as you say, it's not a soda machine, a candy machine.
Correct.
God is not a bellhop running your errands.
Correct. So when we would make a Mishaberach, and I'm assuming that Reform will do that. But when we make a Mishaberach, what we're asking God to do is to heal that sick person. Well, we're in the merit of all of our prayers. That's what we're asking. In the merit of all our prayers, and in the merit of that particular person who is sick, please look kindly upon that person and forgive that person for whatever their malady, for sin caused the malady, and then cure that person. Many times, more than we wish to count, it doesn't work, because the person needs that, what we call a kapara, that atonement, to get to the next level in the stratosphere, in the heavenly stratosphere. So that's when the person will pass away. Other times, the person survives. And again, if they use that opportunity correctly, then they have a clean slate. If they don't, they don't. I knew a person, my brother actually, from my brother's family, his wife's family. The person was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And the person said, I'm not interested in going through chemotherapy, blah, 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 I'm not going to do it. So the doctor said, do me a favor, I just want to keep watching you, so just come back and do the checkups. 6 months later, he comes back and he says, I don't know what happened, but you have no cancer. No. Okay, fine. So the guy goes, good, so God didn't want me yet. So, if God wants me, he's going to get me. If he doesn't, he won't. Okay? He got healed up. Now, he had a choice at that moment. Do I thank God? Do I turn over a new leaf? Do I do things I should be doing and say, you gave me a chance, God, I'm going to be the best whatever I can be? Like I always say, we all have a portrait up in front of God, what we should spiritually look like. And do I look like that, or don't I look like that? Am I living up to my spiritual and Jewish picture or not? If I'm not, and we all know if we are or we are not. And I think that we can all say that we're not. Okay, I think we all can improve, and certainly me. Okay, so if that's the case, when I'm given that second chance, so I would think that you would put in all the effort possible to correct the wrongs. Well, I'm not going to say the person did or did not, but 6 months later, suddenly, cancer's back. And then he died 4 weeks later. It was a quick, he was stage 4. Stage 4 was very quick. So it was 6 months. But first he was cleared for a little while, I think 2 years. No, 2 years he was cleared, 2 years. And suddenly it came back like gangbusters. And he passed away. So again, I'm looking at that and saying, did you do the spiritual repair? Did you do this? Or was this all just part of your atonement process? I don't know. I'm not playing God. I'm not going to play God.
But that person wasn't bad.
I'm not saying anybody's bad.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not making a value judgment. What I'm saying is that, first of all, we define bad as not following God's laws. Nothing else. What's a wicked person? A wicked person doesn't mean you're Hitler. A wicked person means, in Jewish thought, that you're not following what the Torah says you should be doing. That's all. So, and I'm distancing myself away from God as a result. When I don't eat kosher, simple thing, I have the choice between kosher and non-kosher. If I decide to eat non-kosher, and that is my choice, then I'm distancing myself away from God. Just as if I'm driving on the highway, this is more a man thing than a woman thing. When I'm driving on the highway and I miss an exit, I say, I know where I'm going, and I keep going. So what happens, I go 25 miles out of my way before I realize...
Before you listen to your wife.
Before I listen to my wife, and turn around. So how long does it take me to go back to point zero, to a point where to get to where I was? Another 25 minutes. So I've lost 15 minutes on that trip. Or 50 miles on a trip, just to get back to where I was originally, and then I still have to go on. So that's sin. That's not listening to God. That's distancing myself from God. When I go and I keep traveling further away, one of two things happens. Either I say, I'm too far gone, so what's the use anymore, which is what many people think, or I say, I have to turn around. And so what happens is you start that road to repentance, and you start getting closer to God. And it's not easy. Let's face it, it's not easy. That means, again, I have to, let's stick to what we're talking about, okay? I have to start praying 3 times a day. And I have to start, and I have to go to shul, and I have to put, as a man, to put my tefillin on, my talis, and tzitzis, and I have to start doing all these things. I have to wake up early in order to get to minyan, so on and so forth. That's too much. It's too much. I can't do it all. Not at once. I mean, really, I could. But I don't want to. So what I do is I take on little by little. That's what you're supposed to do. Returning, just like I can't instantaneously turn around the highway and say, oh, I want to go back, and bang, I'm there. It doesn't happen. It's a very slow process. So what happens is I start to pray in my home. I start to pray in my home, not the whole service. I start to pray a little bit in the service. Say maybe Shema Esrei, whatever the case is going to be. I have to know what I'm doing. But if I do that, and then as I build up my confidence, as I build up this relationship that I'm having with God, which is what prayer is, it's a total relationship, then I come closer, and then I can start making little bigger leaps. And then ultimately I can get to where I was supposed to be at point 1, where I started out, and then I can start growing even more, and so on and so forth. So again, prayer is, and that's what we're going into, prayer is a recognition that I'm having a relationship with God. Again, God's not the candy machine. God's not the bellboy, the bellhop, whatever we want to call him. God's not that. God is my personal friend, if you will, my father, my mother, the one I turn to for everything, for all the advice in the world. For everything, I want that relationship with God so I know what God would do in this situation. That's how much I want to understand God. That's the relationship I want to build. You understand? That's what we're really trying to build. Again, it's not a matter of I put my request in and you either listen or you don't. How many times do we ask our parents for things, and our parents look at us and say, no. My daughter wants a telephone. A cell phone. No. Why? It depends on how we feel that day, but sometimes we'll explain the reason, and sometimes I taught my kids this a long time ago, what part of no don't you understand? And no, leave me alone. I don't have to explain to you. I know what's best for you. And the answer is no iPod, no this, no that. I'm not interested. Just no. On the other hand, if now Baruch Hashem, she has a license, and now she's going to be driving a car, what a fine. So then, now the equation changes. Now you need a cell phone, because now you're on the road. And if you're on the road, and God forbid something happens, you have to know how to call either me or AAA or something else. You need to have that information. And now I have to train my oldest about AAA, and I have to do all these things in order to get her ready for when she when she goes on by herself a little further than just Walgreens, where she can always walk home. But that's what God is doing to us. He's saying at certain times, you're ready, and I'll explain to you what you need to do. At other times, you're not ready. And either I'll explain why you're not ready, or I won't. And that's, again, the relationship. We have to trust Hashem. And that's a big thing to do, to trust God, to say, this is what God wants. This is what, if God said no to me, or if I didn't get what I wanted, it must mean it's for my benefit that I did not get it at this point. Maybe some other time I'll get it. Maybe I'll never get it. I have to understand that too. But it's a matter of my relationship with God that matters more than anything else. Just like my relationship with my parents, whether I said yes or no, or my wife, or my children. Again, we have different relationships. Or my friends. My friend doesn't always say yes to me, right? Your friend always say yes to you? No, of course not. Your husband doesn't always say yes. Your kids certainly don't always say yes. Okay? So, but again, we want that relationship. And we have to understand at every single turn that is all part of that. And that's where we're getting to prayer. And our prayers, 99% of our prayer is praising God. 1%, the Shemona Esrei, the Amida, that's the only time we ask God for anything. Out of the whole prayer. And on Shabbos, we never ask God for anything. There's never a time for asking. Shabbos or the Yom Tovim, the holidays, we're not asking God anything. Only during the weekdays do we ask God for our personal needs. Otherwise, we don't ask. And so why we have to, so God needs our praise? Does God need our praise?
Oh, definitely.
God needs our prayer.
Well, I mean, I think we need our prayers.
No, I'm saying, does God need me to praise Him?
I would think not.
Correct. The same way you don't need your children to say, Mom, you are the best. You may like to hear it. I'm not arguing what we like to hear. Okay? You may love to hear it. I certainly like to hear I'm the best dad in the world. But it doesn't change anything. It doesn't detract from me whether or not they realize that I'm a good dad, or my wife is a good mother, or that my parents were good. As we always say when we get older, if I only knew that my parents were so smart, I would have followed them a long time ago. We always say that later on. Right? In the moment, we're not thinking they're too smart. But at that moment, but before then, we always have those, after in retrospect, we always see that. So the same thing with Hashem. We have to understand that whatever is going on, whether we get it, we don't get it, or whether we have no response to it, Hashem is with us. And Hashem is always listening to us. And always, by the way, talking back. We just have to listen. That's another thing people don't get. Hashem is always speaking with us. May it be through the Siddur. There's some lines in here. I'll give you one in particular. That is on page, we'll go slower, but I just want to get one thing. We say it every morning, and it's on page 66. And it says in Hebrew, Abdu Goyim, Hashem hefir atza Goyim, that Hashem is in English 67. Hashem annuls the counsel of the nations, He balks the designs of people. Many designs are in man's heart, but the counsel of Hashem, only it will prevail. The counsel of Hashem will endure forever. The designs of His heart throughout the generations. If people would understand that what do? We put faith in man. You send your manuscripts off to you show it to your publisher. Your publisher says, good, very good, we're going to send it off, it's great. Suddenly you send, or he or she sends it back to you and says, rewrite, whatever the case is going to be. And you think, is the publisher who says rewrite? Who says rewrite?
It depends. If you have, usually it's still a little hierarchy here.
Okay.
I have an agent.
Right, okay.
And so, but the publisher, if the editor who's the head, the publisher often will say yes.
But means the agent will say rewrite too?
The agent might say that too.
Okay, good. So your agent, let's start at the beginning. Your agent tells you, you need to rewrite this part. And you say, I put my whole heart and soul into it. Yeah, rewrite it. You don't understand. I do. You want to sell it, or do you want to argue? That's basically, and you're thinking, oh, come on, this person doesn't understand what I put in. And no, it's just the opposite. They do understand what you put in, and they want to make you better for it. You don't believe it?
Okay.
I'm hoping
not
they
sure
do.
that-
I'm hoping they do.
I know what you're getting at.
Okay.
And I
So,
understand that.
good. That's all. Whether I'm sure, I don't
Unfortunately,
know.
it's not always the case.
Okay. I'll take your word for it. I'm not a writer. Okay. But so that's what is going on here, where Hashem will sometimes say, you need to improve this, you need to do this, and do that. And we're thinking, it's not fair. But he won't tell you by, in that message, he'll tell you through other people. God has a lot of messengers in this world. And sometimes when we're looking at things, may it be prayer, when I'm relying upon people, and Hashem says, no, you don't realize what you just said. Everybody has thoughts, or as it says in Yiddish, man denkt, Gott lenkt, man thinks and God steers the boat, as it were. So in every situation, I'm always in charge. I'm larger in charge. And you say it every morning. You say it every morning. You're convincing yourself. And then further on it says, if you go turn the page to page 71, I think it's 71. Yeah, it says, do not trust. 71 says, do not rely on nobles nor of a human being, for he holds no salvation. When his spirit departs, he returns to his earth. On that day, his plans all perish. Period. So I can get involved, and I can look to this person and say, this person is my savior, my personal savior. And I'm saying every morning, no, that's false. My only personal savior, the only one who can do anything for me, is God. And I have to keep reminding myself of that, because I don't think that way during the day. During the day, I think my boss is a no good for nothing. And that boss is driving me to do this. And if it wasn't for my boss, if it wasn't for my kids, if it wasn't my wife or husband, I would be a happy guy, right? Because we all get into that mood where we're blaming everybody but the person we should be blaming, namely us. It all falls upon us. Ivdu Hashem v'simcha says, you have to serve Hashem and enjoy. And we're all looking and saying, oh, I can't do this anymore. It's so hard. Again, if you just think of the words that we say every day, God doesn't need our prayers. God doesn't need our praise, excuse me. He doesn't need our prayers either. We need it. We need to keep grounding ourselves in understanding that we're not in charge. The only thing we're in charge of is our reaction to what happens. Something happens to you, you have to react properly. What's the proper reaction?
What is the proper reaction? To abide by the Torah.
No, I'm saying something happens to you.
Oh, something happens.
Something happens to you personally.
Oh, okay.
What's the proper reaction?
Oh, okay. I would say the proper reaction is to accept it and work with it.
Correct. To say, this is from God, this is the best thing that could have happened to me. This is what I needed for this moment. What do we really do? We get stuck in a traffic jam. We lean on our horn. We want them to move. We're late for a meeting. We're, again, cursing out the place. We're speeding. A cop pulls you over. And the cop says, you know how fast you're going? Well, yeah, I know. I need to get in my meeting. I was going 60 miles an hour in a 30 mile an hour zone. What do you want from me? We don't say that, of course. We want to, but we don't say that. We're upset that the cop pulled us over. It's our fault. If we would have left earlier for the meeting, or whatever the case would have been there. And even if we would have left early, and there still would have been something to hold us up, we have to understand this all from Hashem. And maybe that job wasn't for us, or maybe whatever. Maybe we missed an accident. We don't know what we missed. We don't know what would have happened if everything would have went perfectly. And sometimes things do go perfectly.
But how about our dealings with people that are not guided by the Torah, and
such as?
Well, I mean, such as, let's say your boss is a born-again Christian,
Mm-hmm.
and is operating under different rules
Right.
and limits. And I mean, we can look within ourselves and perhaps withdraw ourselves, but it's unfortunately, I don't see the world as a hospitable place. That is to say, we deal with people that are not concerned with doing the right thing, and they want to, and we just, how do we? I mean, again, we have to accept that as
Mm-hmm.
from God.
Yes, you have to accept everything that's happening as coming from God, and that and that's part of our relationship of tefillah. Again, I'm saying it all starts from the morning. When we start praying, afternoon, nighttime, is that concept that whatever is going on in the world is due to whatever Hashem is setting up. Shakespeare said it best. The world is a stage and we're the mere players. God sets up scenarios where we have to say, what would God want from me at this point? How am I supposed to react to this? And that's what prayer is coming to tell you. That's all what it's doing. It's not just, it's not a candy machine here. It's supposed to change my very soul and my very way of looking at the world. And to say, if I have a born again, or if I have all these people that are coming out of me, even if I have a Hitler Makshima, may his name be blotted out from history, even if I have that sort of a person who is dealing with this, I know I have to start saying, okay, what is Hashem telling me? What does Hashem want from me in this situation? Is it to leave? For instance, in the Germans who had the opportunity to leave with Hitler. When he was there, they had the opportunity to leave, or they had the opportunity to say, no, this is I'm not going to leave Germany because this is my home, and this guy can't kick me out. Who does he think he is? Okay, what's Hashem want from you? Is Hashem telling you it's time to leave? Or should you stay? It's a decision we all have to make.
And to stay and die?
No, remember, those Germans who stayed believed, like we do in America, like we do in every country, that this too will come to pass. We've seen this, we've dealt with it before, and we've survived. Some of us died, but for the most part we survived. The people in, what do you call it? Saddam Hussein was killing thousands of people every day. When he was in Iran. Iran. So again, people have the choice. Do I make a coup against this guy? Do I go against him or not? Or do I say this too will come, another leader will come in and be better? Pharaoh in Egypt, he started to make decrees against the Jewish people. We could have walked away. We could have gone back to Canaan, to Israel. We could have. We decided, we like this country, we're going to stay. That was Egypt. That's why we had the whole Passover system.
As a slave?
We weren't slaves originally. We came in as a free people. And then he made us, because we volunteer, it's a whole complication. But through the years, we put ourselves into that situation where we became indentured to them. We believed that we owed them something. And we did. They allowed us in. They brought us in when there was a famine, but we should have left. Again, in retrospect, I can tell you what we should have done. When you're in that moment, you can't tell him. We're living in America today. 350 years of American hospitality. Okay? America today is not as friendly as it was. It is turning an ugly face to the Jews again. Let's face it. Anybody who's reading the newspapers can see that. What are we doing? We're saying, well, we'll just wait for Obama to leave, or we're waiting for the next president to come in, because Obama is not nice to Israel. Let's face it, he has a horrible record with Israel right now. Trump will have a worse record, and Hillary will just sell Israel down the pike. Bernie Sanders, I have no idea what he's going to do. God only knows what he would do if he got into office. And so, but right now the Pharaoh is, unless he pulls, what's it called? Military coup on the United States, I forget what the executive order, to say there can't be an election. For the most part, Mr. Obama's gone in a couple of months. Okay, or whatever, fine. But, or a year, whatever. This is 2018 he's out, right? I think. Okay, so the point is that we all just say, okay, so we'll get the next guy in, or next person in. Hopefully they'll be a little better. Maybe Hashem is saying to us, it's time to go back to your home. It's time to go back to Eretz Yisrael. It's your homeland. Go. I'm waiting for you. I'm here. I'm opening the doors. Everything is good for us. There's no Jew in America who can't get up right now and leave. Not because of governments telling us. Maybe you want to save money, you want to say this, you want to say that, fine. But for the most part, every one of us could get on a plane, maybe El Al or Tower or anything else, and go and make Aliyah. We could all do it. Who's going to stop us? You know?
Yeah, I went to Israel on El.
Yeah, so I'm saying nobody's going to stop us. We could all go there. We could and just live there, and there would be no problems for Arabs anymore, because Imagine 6 million Jews immigrating to Israel. You have no more, we have empty places. We just filled up all the deserts. We filled everything up. You have now 13 million, you have all of us there. There's no place for anybody after a while, you know. So now we're settling what we want, and nobody can argue on us. The point of them, but what do? We say, no, we're going to survive everything. God doesn't want us. Then we read God's mind. God says, and we say, God doesn't want us back yet because the Mashiach isn't here. Blah 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 blah. Okay, so we all have our defense mechanisms as to what's going on. But again, I have to say again, if I have this relationship with God, and I'm really trying to figure out what God wants from me based on Torah, based on everything else, and He's throwing all of these barbs at us. Well, what exactly do you want from us? Do you want us, is there a type of repentance that we're not doing? Is there something that we're not being nice to our fellow man? So Hashem is now punishing us that way by bringing up anti-Semitism to an all-time height again? And there is. Anti-Semitism is rearing its ugly head very quickly at this point. So what are we supposed to do? What are we supposed to learn from that? And that's, again, that's all part of the tefillah. Yeah. You want to say something?
No.
Okay, so that's the relationship we're trying to build. So now, once we understand that, and now we're using prayer for that, namely to have a spiritual realignment. You go to chiropractor to get your bones good. You go to a car place to get your wheel alignment. Well, this is our spiritual realignment. We have to look at this, and whether it's Hebrew or English or a combination of the two, we have to start saying, okay, what were the rabbis trying to help us understand and realign ourselves with God? God is not this peripheral that when I need Him, that He's going to be there. He'll always be there, like a parent will always be there. But it's not something peripheral. It should be something in my main part of my life. And I shouldn't say, it's interesting. I heard one rabbi say, when you want a pay raise, what do? You go to the boss. And he said, you're doing the wrong thing. Don't go to the boss. Go to the real boss. Name of God. You say to God, Tata, Dad, I need some money here. You have many, many different places to get me money. I don't want people to die. I don't want inheritance. I want money. I need money to pay off these bills. And so on and so forth. And he says, 9 times out of 10, that money will be there somewhere or somewhere else. If you really believe, this is a big thing, if you really believe that it will happen, in other words, you have that confidence in God, and it's not just a Hail Mary pass, you know what I mean by that, right? If it's not just that, so then it will come through. If, on the other hand, you complain to God and say, I've done so much. I do this and I do this, and come on, you got to give me something. Would it hurt? Some eternal plan? The answer is, I don't want you to ask me about that. That's not a proper way to ask me. The answer is no. Sorry. You're not ready. You're complaining to me. I don't really care. You want to complain. I'm doing what's good for you. You need to ask properly. If you say, please, man, really mean it, and really understand that it's me and not all these little machinations you want to do, I'll get you money. And by the way, that happens when you sell a book and it becomes a bestseller. Okay? I can always tell you, Francis, you wrote a great book, and that's why you're a bestseller. But the bottom line is, it's because God listened to you. And God gave you that and said, I'm going to let everybody read it. Because we all know there's some great books out there that I never read. They never read. They didn't get the right they didn't get popular opinion. They didn't get the right sell. We have all these reasons. Bottom line is that even though it was a great piece of work, it wasn't meant, Hashem said no. And so you got to print it. You did Vanity Press. Very nice. But Vanity Press doesn't help you unless you get a real good publisher and they still know how to sell the book. But it's not even them. Look at all these movies that they invest millions in and they bomb. You would think somebody would tell them the movie stinks. But no, they don't. And they just do it. And sometimes, it was Mel, the comedian. The comedian.
That's not Mel Gibson.
No, that's not the comedian. The Jewish guy, Mel. It was a play that they were doing It was supposed to be a bomb of a play. That was the whole thing about Hitler. And
Springtime and
there you go.
yeah,
Right. That whole movie where it was supposed to, or that play, where movie or play, I forget what it was.
it was both.
Okay, so where it was supposed to be, the thing was supposed to be a bomb, and then it turns out he's making money left and right. Mel was his name. Mel is a Jewish guy. Mel Reiner. Mel.
I don't know.
Okay, I forget his name. But that's the point. Sometimes, even when you want it to bomb, Hashem says, "No, I'm going to give you it. Okay? You need to do this." Or you know what? Another way is you invest in stocks. You invest in stocks because God can do a lot of different things. You buy a stock that's bombing. Somebody tells you this is a penny stock, and next thing you know, you bought it and it takes off. Why? I'll give an example. There was a Sirius Radio. Sirius Radio is a cable. Sirius Radio was not selling high. Anybody who bought Sirius Radio was literally a penny stock. There was nothing there. Suddenly, Howard Stern decided that he was going to make a deal, and because he was sick of being on commercial radio, because he wanted to do what he wanted to do, and he didn't want to be yelled at by the powers that be of the radio system. So he was hired by Sirius Radio. When that happened, Sirius Radio stock went from 50 cents or whatever it was to $9. $9.
Well, look at Oprah and Weight Watchers.
No, but I'm saying $9. So anybody who needed, let's say somebody was, they invested early, and then they put this prayer into God, and suddenly Hashem throws Stern onto that, and they're at $9. Sell out now. Here's your money. I give you money. Now, sometimes again, we have to read the tea leaves. We have to say, okay, this is what it is. So then I take the money out, and then, by the way, what happened right after that? It bombed again. It was up at 9, and then went down to 3. I remember that was whoa, that's it. I wasn't invested, but it was. I remember
Howard
watching.
Stern, okay.
I'm picking on Howard because he has an audience, and again, we just think that it's okay. It's the way the market works. Maybe it wasn't that. Maybe Hashem was saying to a person, "You need this money. You invested in Sirius. Sirius is bombing out. So I'm going to give you something. And you're going to think, what a great investment person I was." No. Recognize this from me, God. And here's your money. Now pay off your wedding. Pay off your house. Pay off what you have to pay off. Okay? So that's what I'm saying. Money, all the success can come from anywhere. We have to recognize it's all from God. And God works through natural ways. But that's why he's saying here, don't rely upon human beings. Only rely upon me. If you rely upon me, it'll go well. If for good and for bad, by the way. Again, if God is doing something that we consider bad, we get a cold, we have this, we have that, we have to see that as is good to our good. For whatever that is. Maybe I have a cold because maybe I did something wrong. And this is why Hashem is giving me a little bit of a warning shot across the bow. Or even the best thing. I always put my keys in this side. Always. Okay? Suddenly, for whatever reason, I was filling up and I put it on this side. And what happens? You start filling up your keys and you get frantic. What happened to my keys? And then, they're here. Okay, fine. There's two ways to take that thing of, what an idiot am I? Okay, now I remember, and I don't think twice about it. Or, like I said, thank you, God, for the atonement. You made me worry for 2 seconds. Obviously, I needed that atonement to recognize everything's from you. Fine. Thank you very much for it. And I can walk away from that. So I use that negative and I turn to a positive, that I have now an atonement for it. Okay, I get a cold, God forbid. Or I have a cold. That's the bottom line of it. So I do have a cold. So I say, okay, so let this be, as my father said, let this be a kapara, let this be an atonement for all of Israel. My cold should be an atonement for everybody. That we should just let us go for those things. But that cold, I could always say, the reason I got a cold was because I shook somebody's hand who had a cold, and so on and so forth. I touched my eyes, so I can use all that scientific stuff. Or I could say, for whatever reason Hashem wanted, he made me have a stuffy nose or a sore throat. Maybe I was using my throat incorrectly. In other words, I was speaking badly about somebody. Maybe it was that. Maybe I wasn't appreciating the fact that I could smell things and I didn't make a proper bracha. It could be something like that. And is God that vindictive, by the way? No, it's not a matter of vindictiveness. It's a matter of making me the best person I can be, making me the most thankful person I can be. So it's really to my benefit if I can start realizing, oh, I should have thanked somebody for this. One thing my parents brought me up with, and all of us, was that we had to say thank you. We had to say, please, thank you, excuse me, to have manners. I hope I give that to my kids. But that's one thing that I'm very thankful for that, because they trained us early to be to have recognition of what people do for us. And even if we don't, and even when you get my father also trained me that when you get a ticket from the officer, say, thank you, officer. Have a good day. Because really it was your fault. The cop doesn't pull you over unless you did something wrong. So he stopped you from doing something wrong. Thank you. Have a good day. It's my fault. You don't say, you're lousy, no good for nothing. If you can talk your way out of it, you talk your way out of it, no problem. But in the end, you say thank you. Again, that's all part of it, where I'm being what we call being makir tov. I'm recognizing the good that Hashem is doing for us. And He's using these people, maybe me, you, or anybody else, to get the message across. So that's what I say. Does Hashem talk to us? Every second of the day. It may be through you, it may be through somebody else, it may be through me talking to you right now. Hashem is speaking. All we have to do is listen. We'll have to stop here.
Okay.